Today's topic is going to be all around safety around our horses. When we're dealing with horses, especially those of us that deal with them every day, sometimes we get a little lax in the way that we handle horses, and probably not a good idea to do that. Probably a good idea to stay on our toes a little bit about dealing with horses. It's obviously a awareness fact that horses are 1,100, 1,200 pound animals, and if we're not aware of what's going on with them, they can hurt us. And so we want to make sure that what we're doing is safe around our horses. So one of the biggest things, couple of the biggest things I see with people and how they handle horses is getting lax in the way they lead. And one of the things we see a lot of people do with the help of our assistant here is Hannah will have you walk on a really long, loose line. We have a lot of people that lead horses like this. And you know, with broke horses, that's not a bad thing necessarily, because like this horse, he wants to walk slow and stay relaxed. The problem with that is, and just stop right there, Hannah. The problem with that is that if anything happens, spooks the horse, the place that horse is going to go is on top of Hannah or run through her, because that horse is comfortable with Hannah, and if he hears anything that spooks him, he's going to run to her. So the proper way to lead our horse is to make sure that we keep our hand close to the lead shank, the end of the lead shank, and to lead next to the horse. So in this instance, Hannah's got a lot better control of the horse, and then just keep walking. If anything spooks her horse, she can really easily get a hold of his face. Some examples of things I've seen that happen to people walking their horses like she previously was, is go back to your long loose shank, is this right here. I saw a horse one time run past a person, and as they ran past, have built the momentum and speed and power to get away from them, and actually kicked a young lady in the face as she run by. So we want to make sure we're not doing things like that. Other things are, that's good, other things are turning horses out. When we turn horses out, we want to lead horses into a pen like she's led into this pen, and then especially if we're letting go by the gate, we want to make sure that we're turning the horse around and then taking the halter off the horse versus leading straight in. Let's pretend the gate's behind our horse here, leading straight in and turning them loose this way. In this instance, when she turns her horse loose, if he's excited and happy to be turned out, once she takes that halter off, he runs by, and then she's prone to being kicked or hurt as he runs by and is excited. Not out of anger from the horse or anything like that, but just sheer playfulness. So what we want to do is make sure that we lead our horses in. Hannah leads her horses in the pen this way, and then she's going to immediately turn the horse around so that his butt's towards the area that the horse is going to be released to, and then she releases the horse from here. In that instance, the horse has to actually turn around in order to run off, and she's got time to be able to get out of the way of the horse. So great tips about leading and making sure that you're under control as much as possible with this horse. The other thing, little things like where you put your halters and making sure your halters are up tight. We asked her to put this halter on a little bit loose, but what we'd really want to do is make sure that the strap on this horse is up a little bit more, so we're a little more snug, especially how that come underneath the horse's jowl there. And then always, this is something my dad pestered me with, I've resented as a little kid, but now as an adult understand, is always making sure this is tucked back in so this buckle's nice and secure. Now we've got this horse's halter up a little bit tighter, a little more secure, and taking away any of the looseness that horse might have, or play that horse might have in his halter. So great tips there. Other things about working around your horse, obviously as you work around your horse, we want to make sure that we're keeping a hand on the horse. So I see a lot of people, especially students that I work with, that we start to deal with picking up feet, work around the horse, and they kind of casually come into the horse's leg and then stick their butt out here and pick the horse's foot up here. And that is not a bad thing, again, on a horse that's had that done a lot, but especially young horses who haven't. Anytime you get away from this horse and create space, you're creating a distance that you can get pawed or kicked, and so we want to stay close to them. So picking a foot up, I'm always going to keep a hand on them, let them know I'm here, and then casually run that hand down and to keep my body close and pick that foot up here. So now that my body's tight to the horse, if she moves or if he moves into me, then he's going to push me away and I can let go and step out of the way. Versus if I'm already out here and the horse spooks and pushes into me, he's going to bump me. Same thing on the back end. I come around the back. I want to make sure that I'm in contact with the horse quite a bit, and then be able to run my hand down, let him know I'm here, stay close to keep my body tight into the horse, reach down, grab his leg, and I'm staying close to him. as I'm staying close to him, if he does move or kick or anything, I'd much rather get kicked with close space versus wide space. Wide space is going to create an ability of that horse to impact me hard. Something else about picking up feet that's kind of I don't know if I would classify it as safety as much as I would keeping a horse comfortable so that you're safe, and that's in the way that we pick up feet. What I want to think about picking up a horse's back leg, I see a lot of people pick this back leg up and then their horse starts to move and wiggle because of the position in which they're holding that foot. And if I pick this foot up and I hold it back here, look at the angle this horse has. This is not going to be near as comfortable as if I'm holding this cannon bone straight up and down. So the comfortable spot for this horse is actually to be kind of in this position. Those little things are very important for especially young horses, and recognizing that picking up feet for your farrier, when he comes out, maybe you start putting shoes on a horse, that's a comfortable and an okay position for him to be in. Always make sure when you walk around horses that we're keeping a hand on them. You know, when people say a lot of times, I'll ask them or seen them at, you know, people say, "Is that horse kick?" "Oh no, he's never kicked." They all kick. They can all kick. We want to make sure that we're letting this horse know that we're behind him. As we move around him, we want to either go really wide or really close. If I have the space to move around this horse with a lot of distance, then I want to make sure I'm doing that so that if he does kick, gets scared and kicks or something at me from being behind him because I'm in his blind spot, then I'm not going to be in an impact zone. If for any reason I have to move around him in a close distance, and I've got maybe a 3 foot to a wall here, and I've got to go around this horse, I'm going to make sure he knows I'm here, and I'm going to walk in close to him. I'd much rather be here and him kick me than I would be here and him kick me. So that's another thing to think about. Moving around him, come in close, let him know you're there, and come around tight to him so that you're in a closer distance. Closer distance is going to mean his impact zone is going to be more of a bump than it is a kick if that happens. Surprisingly, something we don't even think about is that how fast this horse can kick. I was at a horse show one time and moved up to talked to a lady and was standing here just like this, talking to her, and I dropped my guard for just a minute and walked this way, and that horse kicked me twice before I knew kind of what had been going on. So always be aware that horses have the ability to be dangerous. We always talk about the back end. We don't necessarily think about the front end, but as Hannah holds this horse, you know she's always off to the side of him. She's not standing directly in front. Again, we don't think about horses pawing, but a horse can paw you, top of your head, in the knee, in the stomach, in the chest, somewhere that's going to get you hurt, especially if you're standing in front of them. Now, not for 1 minute am I thinking that just because I'm standing to the side that I can't get pawed or get hurt, but I'm definitely limiting the amount of risk that I'm going to have if that horse decides to paw or spook. So other forms of safety are definitely important when we're working around horses to untack and to tack up our horses in anticipation of riding. With saddles and equipment, I'm a stickler on those things as far as being, you know, this is a working saddle, but I want to make sure that every piece of it is in working condition. And that means making sure that not only am I looking at everything on the outside to make sure my leather is in good shape, but most importantly looking underneath this saddle to make sure that nothing is rotted, torn away, everything's in good working condition to make sure that I don't get in a position when on top of a horse, I have a horse that feels a cinch break or a cinch strap break and then puts me in a bad position. So all my leathers are in good shape, making sure that they're pliable, not cracked, damaged, and we don't usually have too much of that issue, especially in our climate, but definitely important to make sure I'm doing that. One of the biggest pet peeves of mine I see people do all the time and working with a back cinch, I'm obviously on the wrong side to take that off, but when I go to take this saddle off, this is the first thing that you should undo. Leaving a back cinch on while you pull the front cinch is a really good way to get in a bad spot. Horses that, for whatever reason, set back, spook, or whatever, and you're halfway with taking off the saddle, you've undone the front cinch and you've left the back cinch. This back cinch, when it's attached by itself, can slip really easy into the flank, roll the saddle the other way, and then you've got a horse that is free and loose or really scared about the fact that the saddle is in an awkward position. So always pull that back cinch and then unwrap your front cinch when you're taking off your saddle. keep those things in good working condition, you'll be in good shape. We don't have a bridle on this horse, but again, I'm a big stickler on the quality and the usability of my reins. I've been in a bad position one time where I used someone else's tack. They were on a horse I needed to get on. I'd had them get off, I got on. Reins were cracked and dry. Went to pull on a horse, reins snapped, and this horse wasn't spooked, but when he felt that snap, he got loose and got me in a bad spot. So make sure you're watching your leather and making sure it's in good working condition. Helmet safety is something that we probably don't discuss enough. It's definitely a consideration. It should be a consideration for anybody riding horses. Currently, as you probably know, in the state of Mississippi, the 4-H are required to wear helmets in speed events, and obviously in hunter events, that's a normal part of their attire. But something that should be considered when we're working around horses or riding horses in any situation is probably whether or not you choose to wear a helmet for safety. Anytime a horse gets away from you, you're on top of them, you don't really get the opportunity to choose where you fall or how you land. And protecting your head is a very important consideration when riding horses. So what we have for you today and to consider are a few different types of helmets, the importance of those, way they should be certified, the way they should fit, the difference in importance in them versus a bicycle helmet. We see a lot of people think that a bicycle helmet will help in the incidence of a fall off a horse, and that's probably not a good alternative to a helmet. So with that, I'm going to introduce Hannah back to the situation, and what she's going to discuss is the different types of helmets. She wears a helmet. She rides over fence horses and cross-country horses, and so she's used to wearing helmets and can give you more consideration in picking and choosing the right helmet.
So like Dr. Cavendish said, I'm Hannah Miller, and I ride primarily hunt, seat, and over fences, and so I wear a helmet just about every time I get on, especially with younger or green horses that are a little bit more unpredictable. But it's important to remember that even the broke horses can get you off if something spooks them or something scares them the wrong way, and so you can't really predict when or where or how you're going to fall off. So I like to wear a helmet just to be sure. So these are a couple of different types of helmets that range in price range and what they do and how they fit. A lot of people find that certain brands fit them differently and fit them better depending on their head shape. It's just like a Western hat. So for example, I wear 6 7/8 in a Western hat, and so I also wear 6 7/8 in a helmet. However, there are some helmets such as this one, which is a Troxel, that has a dial on the back so that you don't have to get the exact size. You can adjust it to different head shapes and sizes. This one runs about $35 to $40. You can pick it up even at Tractor Supply, carries them now. Your local co-op likely will. And this one, the brand is named Tipperary. And some of their models are adjustable. This one is not, so it fits to my head how it should. And I'm going to put it on just to show you how it should fit. And this is also where I can show you one of the biggest differences between a riding helmet and a bicycle helmet. So when I put this on, you'll notice that it comes down over to the back of my neck. Now a bicycle helmet will usually stop up here, so it doesn't protect this part of your head, where if you fall on your face like this, like I have, and you get whiplash, the bicycle helmet isn't going to protect that part of your head. And this one runs in the $60 to $70 range. I use this the most often because it's very lightweight, it's really comfortable. I feel like it gives me a good protection, and it also fits me well. Now, if you move into the more higher end helmets like these two over here, they're more used for showing, and so this one is usually in the $150 range. You can see that has the suede or felt top to it. It's not adjustable, so you have to get the size that fits you. And when you're fitting them, when you put them on, you don't want there to be any gaps through here. So if you feel air on this space right here, it can cause pressure points right here. And it's not really protecting the sides of your head because you have that space between the protection and your skull. So when they crush, it can hit you, and just like getting kicked by a horse, you have more distance, it can hurt you worse. So you want to make sure that you have an even pressure all the way around, just like a Western hat. Again, the same type of fit and feel. When I turn my head over, it's not going to fall off even though it's not buckled. Now when you buckle it, you want to make sure that it doesn't have to be choking you. You don't have to go around like you have a tie on, but you want it to be right there against your chin so that it can't slip off over your chin in case you have an impact that knocks your helmet to the side. And this helmet is probably the most expensive on this table, and it's used, I only use it for showing just because it is nicer. You can see it has a leather harness, and it's designed to be a hunt seat cap. And they range anywhere from $300 to $600. And that mostly is just because of the brand name and the style. It's not necessarily because of how safe they are. All these helmets are ASTM certified, which means they've gone through the testing and they've been certified to protect your head against high impact sports such as horseback riding. And as a general rule, if you fall off on your head or your helmet cracks, you see any damage, which not all the time you can see the damage. Sometimes it's inside the helmet. And so generally, if you fall off on your head, you're going to want to replace that helmet. And ASTM also recommends you replace it every 5 years, because every 5 years they come out with new certification requirements for the helmets as they do more testing and find better ways to protect us. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Cavender.
Well, Hannah, what about things like cleaning these hats? Is there some advantage to some brand over another in keeping them clean and free of dirt, anything like that?
Sure. So like this helmet, like the Troxel or the Tipperary, because it doesn't have that velvet or soft covering, you can hose it off and let it dry out. They're a lot easier to keep not stinky, especially riding in Mississippi where it gets nice and sweaty during the summer. This hat, you can see, has been faded out and has been worn a lot. And that's from the sun and dirt. And you can take a stiff brush, or they have suede cleaners, but it's kind of like the difference between a synthetic saddle and a leather saddle. You know, so this protects you, it does the same job. It's just a little bit easier to take care of and maintain because you don't have to deal with the fabric covering.
Great, thanks, Hannah. And a good thing to remember too is, you know, safety is a great thing to think about, keeping proper distances, wearing the proper equipment. That's something we didn't even talk about. I see so many people riding shorts and tennis shoes. Those are easy safety things to eliminate from your riding experience. But what's most important that we realize is that no matter what you do, you're taking a risk in everything. But there's a risk in getting in your car and going to school today. But we can limit or reduce the amount of risk we have in working with these large animals, so it's something to keep in mind. I hope that informs you about a lot of different things about safety requirements and equipment when working with horses. We'll see you next time.